Over, and it's going to be over long before 2050. 2050 is just a date to buy time to stay in power. That's all that date is. But there's no turning this around, ladies and gentlemen. There's no turning it around. I'm still blown away at the fact that they have 2/3 in there. And that is in the Bible. Wow. Can't make it up, y'all. This is something. This is huge. This is huge. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you can support my channel, please do. Your support is always welcome. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out in the Wichita Eagle, April 28th, 2018. Kansas birth rate at lowest point ever amid years long slide. The United States as a whole has seen birth decline during the same period. Research suggests the Great Recession, the deepest economic downturn in the country since the Great Depression in the 1930s, drove down birth rates. The economy has since recovered, but birth rates have not. Some researchers suggest the economy remains challenging for young people, leading to more to continue delaying having children. It's a hard economy for young people without a college degree, said Samuel Sturgeon, president of Demographic Intelligence. The firm issues fertility forecasts nationwide. And as you can see, going from 1997 all the way up to 2017, you can see the decline in the chart. A 2014 study published by the Institute for Research on Poverty found that poor economic conditions are generally associated with lower likelihood of pregnancy. Women without partners and married women showed the largest decrease in pregnancies in response to the recession, the study said. Married women had a lower likelihood of pregnancy when unemployment rates were high, while unpartnered women were less likely to become pregnant when mortgage foreclosure inventories were higher, the study said. In general, our analysis suggests that women responded to income constraints and generalized uncertainty by not getting pregnant during recessionary years, the study said. Teen pregnancies have also fallen sharply. Sturgeon said about 10.5% of children born in 2007 had mothers under 20 years old. That's now fallen about half in the years since. The teen pregnancy rate in Kansas has been falling and has been on a downward trend since 2008. The pregnancy rate among women 10 years old, oh my God, what the hell are y'all doing in Kansas? Fell from 28.8 pregnancies per 1,000 in 2008 to 12.9 in 2016. Wow, that's a big drop. That's a big drop. The drop in birth rate among teens is now creeping up the age spectrum, Sturgeon said, with the average age of the mother when she has her first child also rising. What this tells us is mom is taking longer to have kids, Sturgeon said. Vanessa Sanborn runs Let's Talk Inc., the Lawrence-based nonprofit that promotes comprehensive sex education. In an email, she said that she noticed a shift in the way teens are approaching sexual decision making during the more than 10 years she's been in the field. I haven't conducted research, but based on my observations from working with young people in a variety of school districts, they seem to be putting a much greater emphasis on personal decision making and consent than what I've observed in the past, Sanborn said. Data from the National Center for Health Statistics compiled by the Pew Research Center shows the teen birth rate in the United States has dropped from 61.8 births per thousand women ages 15 to 19 in 1990 to about 24.2 in 2014. That's a very significant drop. Wow. Pew suggests less sex, use of more effective contraceptives, and more information about pregnancy prevention are contributing to the decline in teen birth rates. What we're starting to see is that fewer and fewer kids are hooking up at all. There's less sex, less dating, less personal interaction, Sturgeon said. But you know what? I did read that the millennials is the generation that has the fewest children of all time. They said there has never been a generation that had so few children. That's the biggest generation that had, they said it's historical, that they're hardly having any children. Okay. Let me just go down a tad bit. Kansas saw 13,001 out of wedlock births in 2017, down from 13,699 in 2016. 2,701 low birth weight infants were born in Kansas in 2017, or about 7.4% of all births were infants. Weight was known. That's up from 7% in 2016. Premature births increase to 3,492 in 2017, up from 3,457 in 2016. Wow. This is nationwide. This is not just in Kansas, you know. Things are changing rapidly. It really is. You know, I notice it. I remember years ago, you would always see pregnant women walking around with strollers. I can walk in to Walmart at any given time, and sometimes I don't even see anyone pushing a stroller. I don't see pregnant women like I used to. You used to see pregnant women all over the place. You don't hardly see a pregnant woman out in public. You see a few, but nothing like you would have seen 10 years ago. At least that's how it is in my area. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. This is an article that came out in the New York Times, March 21st, 2018. Why outer suburbs in the East and Midwest have stopped booming. Many counties, including rich ones, are aging and experiencing more deaths than birth, without growth through immigration or migration. Take a look at this map. The red is showing you the deaths, which are now outpacing births in the US. Wow. And as you can see, it goes up every 5 years on this particular map. And that's 1991, 96, 2001, 2006, 2011, 2016. Look how red the map is. You can't hide this. You can't hide it or deny it. Plain and simple. Hunterdon County, New Jersey is rich, which is very true. It's probably one of the richest counties in New Jersey. It ranks 6th nationally among counties in median household income and has 4 decades exemplified at the American outer ring suburb. But in one crucial measure, this exuberant enclave 60-mile west of Manhattan resembles old mill communities in northern New England or impoverished regions of Appalachia. The measure is death as compared to birth, otherwise known by demographers as natural increase. But this is not an increase. This is negative. That's what it is. And as you can see right here, Hunterdon County residents gave birth to 3,590 babies between 2013 and 2016. But even more residents, 3,647 died. So you can clearly see there were it was less births than deaths. So it's really true. Now, when you go back 4 years, 2 decades earlier, there were 5,882 births and 2,947 deaths, which is the norm. But you can see that's no more. And as you can see on this chart, the gray line are the births, which are below the red line, which indicates death. With new county-level census population estimates due out this week, demographers will track not just the population gains and losses, but the components of change, births, deaths, and the movement of people. And while migration, which counts people moving both domestically and immigration, gets most of the attention, changes in birth and death patterns are increasingly important. Some American communities that until recently were considered demographic boom towns are now caught up in a downward demographic mix. Young people having fewer children, the baby boomer generation getting older, and migration patterns stalled by the recession are resuming, but only in certain parts of the country. Through 2016, about 1 in 4 outer ring suburbs were experiencing more deaths than births, including 18 of 30 such counties in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Some of the once fastest growing counties in the United States are growing no more, and nationwide the birth rates has dropped to levels not seen since the Great Depression. Wow. It is one of the biggest puzzles. Now, this demographer is just talking about the changes that they have noticed. So I'm going to go down a little bit. More than 1,200 counties in the United States, home to 1 in 7 Americans, have a negative natural increase in population in 2016. In total, 1,700 counties experience a negative natural increase at least 1 year this decade. For many counties, this makes migration especially important for population stability and growth. Counties in the Northeast and Midwest that have traditionally lost residents to the South and West are having a harder time propping up their population numbers. Some maintain their numbers because of immigration, but American immigration policy is now a subject of debate, and a smaller number of immigrants would put more pressure on counties facing population loss. The nation's sprawling growth pattern has taken its share of criticism. It's associated with long distance commuting, environmental degradation, and urban decay. But population stagnation in places that had been growing will most likely bring its own set of problems, including pressures on real estate value and eventual shrinking of political representation. And it starts with babies, which we know people are not having as many today as they did years and decades before. The estimate lifetime birth per woman is down 16% from a recent peak in 2007. New Census Bureau projections say that Americans over 65 will outnumber children under 18 for the first time in U.S. history by 2030, and that a rising number of deaths will increasingly offset how much births are able to contribute to population growth. That's going to be very hard. Right now, the baby boomers are the last biggest population right now. So if they're not giving birth, there's no way they're going to be able to replace the baby boomers that are currently dying out. Migration dropped significantly during the recession, Mr. Johnson said, but has returned to pre-recession patterns, abate at all slower pace. Florida, Texas, and Arizona have all seen population inflows resume. For example, while states in the Northeast and Midwest that were losing residents to migration have resumed losing them. Births, on the other hand, have not returned to pre-recession patterns. They've instead skewed sharply in a negative direction. The number of deaths continued to rise during the recessionary period, but births have yet to rebound from the impact of the recession, Mr. Johnson said. This has been most pronounced in places that have long struggled economically, but it's also now increasingly common in well-off suburbia. In many areas, young people, besides having fewer children, are not as enamored of the suburbs as previously, the previous younger generation. And that is true. I live in the suburbs, and then in the township that I live in, there are fewer people now. You know, before there used to be a lot of people, but that has changed dramatically. This is especially true in cities experiencing urban rivals like New York. Millennials don't want to be in outer suburbia. Yeah, most of them want to be in the city. That's very true, said James W. Hughes. Okay, so whereas previous generation of young couples streamed ever further out to the suburbs in search of larger lots and lower taxes, the current crop prefers Brooklyn, Jersey City, and other locals close to the urban core. Perhaps the largest symbol of Hunterdon County shifting demographics, Mr. Hughes said, is the 1,000,000-square-foot Octagon office building that lies abandoned in the county's lush woodlands. Merck erected an environmentally friendly facility of 460 acres with much publicity in the early 90s, only to pull up stakes 20 years later and move back to the suburb Interring. Wow, look at that. That was a big facility. Actually, I had a friend that worked in this very facility for Merck, you know, and it's not surprising. There are so many places that are closing. I even noticed it around me. When they built it, no expense was spared. Now it just sit there, Huge said. And though local officials recently announced the company was in negotiations with a buyer, that facility is ginormous. I've been there a few times, but I had a friend that worked there for a few years. And Merck was the largest pharmaceutical in New Jersey. And I didn't work for Merck. I used to work for Bristol Myers Squibb. So I had one friend working for this pharmaceutical. I knew quite a few people that were working for the pharmaceutical companies back then. Okay. Population has grown rapidly for years in the 11 outer ring counties of the New York metropolitan area, Mr. Hughes said. But those counties are all like Hunterdon, shrinking with slow migration and more deaths than birth. Enrollment in some Hunterdon County school districts is down by as much as 20%, he said. And although the plenty of older residents remain in place, they will most likely end up paying more to live there as the tax base shrinks along with the population. The birth-death ratio is declining fast in the suburbs of large cities. So, um, I remember a time when the suburbs were booming. Now, believe it or not, it has switched. The cities are now booming. All right. So in 2018, there were 1.9 births for every death in what Brookings term emergent suburbs, places like Hunterdon County, where the suburban foothold has not yet overtaken the rural character. Less than 10 years later, the ratio had dropped to 1.5, roughly the rate of rural America last decade. Not only are many outer suburban counties aging, but they also tend to be disproportionately white, said Mr. Fry, which probably contributes to the falling birth-death ratio in suburban counties, since the birth rate is especially low for white women. In some parts of the South and West, the birth-death imbalance is masked by increasing migration, which still drives population growth. The suburbs there are still popular and attract local, national, and international migrants. Yet, many counties in the North are net exporters of migrants. More people leave than move in. Very true, because that's how it is around where I am. Mr. Johnson said, I'm just going to go down a little further. All right. The only other time we've been in a situation like this has been in the Great Depression itself. There was a drop in women having children, especially young women, and they never made up for never having children young when they got older. So there you go. So they're acknowledging that this drop in birth is mainly impacting the white community. But many of these things we already know, but this really kind of clear the air that this thing is real and it's still going on. And as you can see from this interactive map, it gets very red. Every 5 years, it gets very red. So you can clearly see all the deaths that are occurring in the country are not being replaced by births. Wow. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell and please share these videos. Peace, family. This is an article that came out in the Chicago Evening Post, February 23rd, 2018. And look like the U.S. fertility falling short of what women want. Demographic intelligent advisor comment on the trends behind the falling U.S. birth rate statistics. Writing in the New York Times, the economist Lyman Stone predicts that U.S. births fell to 3.84 million births in 2017, down from about 3.95 million in 2016. Stone was drawing upon research from Demographic Intelligence new 2018 U.S. fertility forecasts. Stone, who serves as an advisor to Demographic Intelligence, also note that the U.S. total fertility rate fell to 1.77 lifetime births per woman in 2017. Such low fertility is below what women want in the United States. What's driving the decline in U.S. births? The team of demographers and family scholars at Demographic Intelligence identify 4 factors driving the recent fall in births. To share, now, unmarried women, well, we always knew, in the U.S. and really all over the globe, unmarried women will use contraceptives. I mean, hey, when I was unmarried, I did. So, all right, so that's one factor. The second factor is young adult sex in America. So not as many young people are having sex and getting pregnant, and that's the 18 to 30 group. And that's rose 10%. And it went up to 18% between 2014 and 2016. All right. Marriage rates have been falling among adults, and that's true. There's a lot of people out here, in fact, many that want to be married and they're not married. And that is the people between 18 and 64. That's where marriages fell. And it went from 54.2% in 2010 to 48.6% in 2016, but that's always been low. And I can tell you, I even noticed that when I was growing up, I kid you not, it was almost every weekend I would see the wedding parties on the road every single weekend. The whole time I was growing up, I remember it even when I was a teenager. Now I can go out on a Saturday and not run into a wedding party on the road, sometimes weeks or even months before I see one. And sometimes it would be multiple, because around where I live, there's about 3 churches in walking distance from my house. And I remember growing up, there would be weddings at all 3 churches. You would see multiple wedding parties on the road. Now, it's rare to see one now. Very rare. Finally, immigration rates have been declining, especially in wake of the 2016 presidential election and Trump's policies. Demographic intelligence analysis indicates that births are now down among foreign-born women than native-born women. So having the immigrants here is really not helping the birth rate, y'all. It's not. So the immigrant women are having fewer babies than the women that were born here. So that's not helping them. They were counting on them immigrants to help pad up the numbers, y'all. Ain't happening. The decline in U.S. births since 2014 is surprising, given that the economy has been improving, says demographic intelligence Sam Sturgeon. Well, if your women are barren, it doesn't really matter what the economy is. But changes in young adult relationships, sexual practices, and contraceptive usage appear to be pushing births downward. That's not the only reason. See, they're not talking about all of these women out here that can't get pregnant. You notice the article is conveniently skipping over the infertile women that are out here, and there's a lot of them that just simply can't get pregnant, and it's not even bringing that up. Moreover, Trump administration policies are also discouraging immigration, which has an impact on births. The big question is, when will the decline in births come to an end? It won't. It won't. We addressed this question in the latest edition of the U.S. fertility forecast. Maybe it has something to do with your 6,000 years being up. You know, it has a lot to do with it. And it's just giving you sort of like footnotes at the end. You know, if you want to see more information and, you know, as far as trending on births and weddings and marriages and all that stuff, which everything's down in the US. Everything is down. And you know what? I did an article on how even abortions are dropping in the Black community. You know, it was up there for a while, but even that's declining. It's not as many Black women getting abortions anymore. Everything's dropping in this US economy. So I'm not surprised. Things have to change because we can't go to the next level with things as they are. So things are going to have to change whether people like it or not. And it's happening. It's inevitable. You're not going to stop this downward trend. I mean, even your experts say once a certain groups drop in birth rate, just like over in Europe, once you reach that point, there's no returning back from that. There is no group that ever existed on this planet that went through a declining birth rate and they bounce back. They can't. They can't. If they could bounce back, ladies and gentlemen, you would have seen it by now. They can't do it. That's why they're talking about cloning and all that other nonsense and trying to use the uterus of foreign women and all that stuff. If they really truly could do it themselves, they wouldn't have to go through all of that stuff. And there's scientists trying to play God and clone people and all that stuff. I've read numerous stories about that stuff, you know, all around the world. The scientists are trying to figure out ways to clone, and it's ridiculous. It really is. But please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. Join me over on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out on CNBC, January 23rd, 2018. I will leave the link to the story in the description box. The U.S. is in a baby bust. So diaper makers need a new plan. They're not making any money off of baby bottles and diapers anymore. It's a sharp decline on their revenue. Baby making in the U.S. is on the decline, and the makers of diapers and bottles are feeling the pinch. The U.S. birth rate dropped to a historic low last summer as would be parents push back parenthood. Meantime, the $12.6 billion diaper business dropped to an annualized rate of 0.3% from 2012 to 2017. This could be parents delaying, or that drop could be here to stay, says Jason Dorsey, president of the Center for Generational Kinetics. We won't know for another 5 years, but companies can't wait that long to find out. No, if these people had the ability to make babies and really bounce back in their numbers, you would have seen it by now. The fact that they have to use immigrants to pad up the numbers now tell you baby making have been on the drop for many, many, many years. In fact, I will say decades. The slowdown could be attributed to any number of factors: focus on work, recession, fears, or student debt. The impact of millennials having children later, or in some cases not at all, is already having an effect. Kimberly-Clark, the makers of Huggies, diapers, and Kleenex tissues, on Tuesday announced it would cut about 13% of its workforce globally in a bid to reduce costs as sales wane. It pointed to the lower U.S. birth rates as one of the challenges confronting the company. In its Tuesday call with investors, it looked like y'all better start investing in something else. Pampers maker Procter & Gamble, which also announced earnings Tuesday, reported a 1% drop in its baby, feminine, and family care business. That segment, which also includes wipes and pregnancy tests, has declined or stayed flat on a yearly basis since 2014. The pain has proliferated beyond diaper makers. Edgewell Personal Care, the maker of Playtex baby bottles, has seen sales of its infant feeding products decline. Johnson & Johnson has watched its U.S. baby business, which includes baby oil, bubble bath, and nursing pads, dropped as well. Big brands right now need to adapt because a delay in having children or decline poses a significant material threat to their core business, Dorsey said. The diaper business remained viable, and any business that requires frequent repeat purchase is desired. The company need to make and deliver products that way mothers want them to. Innovation has largely been driven by upstarts. Brands like Honest and Seventh Generation have shown there is an appetite for organic diapers. Several retailers have demonstrated the appeal of online subscription diaper business. Companies also extend their product lines, making different products for babies or focusing on toddlers rather than newborns. Johnson & Johnson plans on relaunching its baby care products this year with new formulations and packaging, the company said during its earnings call. Kimberly-Clark told investors Tuesday it has a number of innovations it is planning on unveiling, including diapers with improved protection and fit. Meantime, the number of adults older than 65 grow. Diaper makers can double down on their offerings for incontinence. Roughly 31% of all diapers sold in the U.S. were adult diapers, according to data provider IBIS World. So there you go. The baby product industry is suffering due to the lack of babies in the U.S. Please tell me what you think, and we know who's lacking. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe, and don't forget to hit on the notification bell. Also, join me over on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, I was looking in the comment section on my video for low birth rates for the U.S. and South Korea, and I saw a few folks, it wasn't everybody, definitely not the majority, putting out there that blacks have a low birth rate too. That is false. That is false. And I challenge all of you that put that stuff out there to find that information. I'm going to prove to you right now in this video, our numbers have always increased every single year. Now, this is from the U.S. Census American Fact Finder. This is showing you all of the population. And I just want you to take notice to where it says Black or African American. Okay? Black or African American. Now, this is set on July 1st, 2010. We were at 43,350,057. That was the estimate amount of blacks in this country, which we know they're undercounting us. We know this. But one thing they're not denying is our increase every year. All right, so I'm going to show you July 1st, 2011. You can see we increased. So we're at 43,928,553. So we went up. So here's another year. July 1st, 2012, we went up again. 44,512,625. So we went up again. There is no decrease in the black population. Again, let's go to July 1st, 2013. We increased again. 45,094,738. So we went up again. We went from 44 million to 45 million. Okay. Now here's 2014. We went from another increase. If you look at this number, 45,672,250. All right. There has never, if you see, I went from 2010 to 2014 and we increased every single year. Every single year. So those of you that are out here trying to say, we did not increase, I want to challenge you on this today. Here's 2016. 2016, we went up to 46,778,674. So we increase consistently every single year. Consistently every year. There is no decrease from 2010 in the black population to 2016. It's been a steady increase. So those of you that are putting out there that black people have a low population, I challenge you today to provide the proof, and don't go to no white supremacist site or some white supremacist article and show that as proof. I don't want to see it. If you come to the census or come somewhere where numbers are kept, and I'm putting you to the challenge to prove that the black population has decreased. There is no decrease. And I showed you a 6-year span, and there have been no drop in the black population at all. So when you put falsehoods out there and post it in the comment section, yes, I'm going to come back at you. So please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can make a donation to my channel, please do. Peace, family. Story that was sent to me by Robin, the Girl Wonder. I want to thank you for sending this story. It kind of follows up on the story I did just a few days ago on the Caucasoids' low fertility rate among the men, the low sperm count. I tried to open up the BBC link also that you sent me on a similar story to this, but for some reason the page would not show up. It just kept saying page not found. So I don't know what's going on there, but I will use this article. Sperm count drops 50% in the US and other parts of the world. So it goes right back to saying exactly what I touched on a few days ago. And this is good because this is like a really good follow-up article that came out in the Chicago Tribune on this same topic. The quality of sperm from men in North America, Europe, and Australia has declined dramatically over the past 40 years, with a 52.4% drop in sperm concentration, according to a study published Tuesday. The research, the largest and most comprehensive look at the topic involving data from 185 studies and 42,000 men around the world between 1973 and 2011. Okay, so this is really interesting because as you go into this article, because it touches on a lot of the things that I spoke about, but as you go a little further into this article, it lets you know straight up. The analysis found drops only for men in Europe, North America, and Australia. Now listen to this. And not for those in South America, Asia, and Africa. So there are no fertility issues with Black people at all, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. This is only Caucasoid males, which tells me it's genetic. But they keep claiming that, it's environmental, it's all these other things. I'm not buying it. It's genetic. Now, maybe I would say it was environmental if maybe it was impacting North American white males, but no other white males on the planet. No, it's affecting all of them, no matter where they are in this world. That, ladies and gentlemen, is genetics. I don't give a damn about what they say. Swamp explained that this could mean that there's something specific to certain cultures or regions that affect sperm, but that it's also possible there's just isn't enough data yet to draw confirmed conclusions about the rest of the world. Bullshit. It's genetics. It's their recessive genetics. There have been far fewer sperm studies conducted in non-Western countries. Well, it doesn't need to be none checked. They're not having any issues. So what are you checking for? A study published earlier this year about China's Hunan province found that 56% of the sperm donations met the criteria for health in 2001 versus only 18% in 2015. The most important data points in the new study involve sperm concentration for what are known as unselected men who haven't yet proven they are fertile. These are men in the study who are on the younger side and not yet fathers, or do not have partners who are pregnant. Researchers estimate that these men had an average sperm concentration of 99 million per milliliter in 1973, but that had dropped to an average of 47 million per milliliter in 2011. That is a disturbing number given that, according to the World Health Organization criteria, men with a sperm concentration of less than 40 million are considered to have an impaired chance of conceiving, and those with a sperm concentration of less than 15 million per milliliter are unlikely to be able to have children. These numbers mean surprisingly higher proportion of men are falling into the infertile and subfertile categories, Swamp said. It's genetic. Wow. It's almost like they don't want to come out and say that. They will just dance around the whole thing. It's genetic, damn it. It's genetic. There are numerous theories about what may be happening to sperm. It's genetic. Many scientists said the most sensitive period may be during the first trimester, when the developing fetus reproductive system may be impacted by a mother's smoking, stress she experienced, or food she ate, exposure to chemicals that can change hormone levels, known as endocrine disruptors, are among the issues being studied. Over the lifespan, men are exposed to a number of other things that could potentially influence sperm concentration: pesticides, leads, x-rays, stress, and countless other factors. So you're saying the whole white male population has been exposed to things that the other males in this country have not been exposed to. Ain't buying it. It's genetic. The changes in the womb can cause permanent damage, Swamp explained, while the adult exposures are most likely reversible. The issue of sperm isn't just about having babies. It has larger implications for men's health. Poor sperm health has been linked to cardiovascular issues, obesity, cancer, and more generally to higher rates of hospitalization and death. While men's life expectancy is increasing overall thanks to advances in medicine, nutrition, and sanitation, it isn't unthinkable that could one day reverse. Having a low sperm count is a signal, Swamp said, that there is something wrong in men's overall health. Now, the BBC article that didn't come up, when it did come up at one point in time, but when I was about to do this video, it wouldn't come up. It specifically pointed out the white men of having this issue. So, shocking that it doesn't come up now, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, this low sperm concentration is impacting white males and no one else. It's genetic. But let's go ahead and play this video. Okay. And it's no wonder why American white couples are now flocking to Eastern Europe for surrogate mothers because they just can't have babies. And this is serious for them. It's very serious. If you can't replace the people that have died off, then you're pretty much doomed. And remember, they only produced 5,000. Their population, the Caucasoid population, only grew by 5,000 people over a 1-year period between 2015 and 2016, ladies and gentlemen. But you have hundreds of thousands of them dying every year, and they're not able to replace the population that died out. That's a huge, huge problem. You are looking at human extinction if you can't replace the numbers that have died. At least match it. They can't even match it. But tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, ladies and gentlemen, please do. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, we keep getting all of these different reasons on why the sperm count is low and these folks are not reproducing. Now there's a new reason. This came out in The Independent, November 14th, 2018. Climate change could lead to lower sperm count in men, study shows. Now, for a while, it was the plastic, all these things. But now, today, it is climate change causing low sperm count, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go and find out why it's climate change. Scientists have suggested that increasingly temperatures that are a symptom of climate change could lead to lower sperm counts. Using red flower beetles as a proxy for humans, a new study showed clear evidence of lower sperm numbers and viability as temperatures increase. Study co-author Matt Gage, an ecologist at the University of East Anglia, said beetles were used because they are one of the most common species on the planet. And so these results are very important for understanding how species react to climate change. We know that biodiversity is suffering under climate change, but the specific causes, sensitivities are hard to pin down. We've shown in this work that sperm function is an especially sensitive trait when the environment heats up. And in a model system representing a huge amount of global biodiversity, Mr. Gage said, the beetles were subjected to controlled conditions and a 5-day heat wave. Heat wave conditions, 9 to 13 degrees above the typical high temperature for 5 days, damage males, but not female reproduction, according to the study published in the peer review Nature Communications Journal. So, putting heat on insect reproduction. So what they're saying is the hotter the temperature, the less productive the sperm was in the male beetle. But the female was fine. It further states successive heat waves almost sterilize male beetles. Wow. So you mean to tell me when it heats up, these guys already walking around with low sperm count will be sterile? Wow, y'all. Now, isn't that something? According to the University of Rochester Medical Center, in order for males to create viable sperm, the temperature outside of the testicles have to be cooler than internally. If somehow the male beetle was able to produce in that temperature, their offspring had shorter than average lifespans, according to researchers. Okay, so when they turned up the heat, the sperm count dropped in the male beetle. And the ones that were able to produced an offspring that had a much shorter life expectancy. Interesting. Chris Sales, another researcher on the study, said research has also shown that heat shock can damage male reproduction in warm-blooded animals too. And past work has shown that this leads to infertility in mammals. Our research showed that heat waves half male productive fitness. Wow. And it was surprising how consistent the effect was. The authors hope the results will allow for more understanding of conservation efforts and effects of climate change on humans. Well, they're already saying the world is heating up fast. Well, I guess the Most High knows what he's doing if he's heating it up on these guys out here that already got less sperm than their forefathers. By the time he gets this earth boiling, they're going to be sterile. That's what it's telling us, right? So these guys already got struggle sperm, right? We'll have no sperm at all, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder if they'll all become sopranos, you know? Maybe will the voice change when the sperm goes? They're going to start sounding more feminine and everything. You never know, right? But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, they have a new reason for why the sperm is low. First, it was the sunscreen, then it was the plastics, and now it's the marijuana. So stay tuned for the next reason for why the sperm is low. So this is an article I want to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending. October 9th, 2018, from the Daily Mail. Fertility risk from cannabis. Marijuana linked to lower sperm count and more abnormalities. So I wanted to see what abnormal sperm looked like. So I Googled it and came up with this picture. So this is a normal sperm form right here. These are abnormal. I guess it's like this one is small. This one is larger than normal. This one even smaller. A two-headed one. Two tails. Wow, this is crazy, y'all. I didn't even know this sort of thing happened. But there you go, abnormal sperm. All right, so now they're saying that it's coming from the cannabis. Marijuana may damage semen quality and affect male fertility, new research suggests. Researchers looked at samples from men in Washington, where the drug has been legal for recreational use since 2012, and compared it with their cannabis consumption. They found that men who had consumed cannabis in their lifetime were more likely to have abnormally shaped sperm and lower concentrations of sperm compared to men who had never used the drug. Interesting. Lead researcher Omer Rahim, who presented his paper today at the American Society for Reproductive Medicine conference in Denver, said these findings show doctors should warn men trying to conceive that marijuana may play a role in slowing that process down. Sperm quality and counts are plummeting across the US and worldwide, and no one can pinpoint the driving force. Since it's likely the result of multiple factors, including chemical exposure and poor diet, researchers are exploring all areas to find ways to curb the drop. Cannabis, too, is a booming but understudied area that has scientists both excited and skeptical. The drug is now legal in more than half of the United States for medical use and 9 for recreational use. And yet science is still racing to catch up with legalization, and the true benefits and downsides are still coming to light. Interesting. All right, so I'm just going to go down a bit. So he took cultures from men under 45. All right. Before sending their samples to be screened at the lab, the men were given a healthy assessment form to fill out, which include questions about their marijuana consumption, as well as tobacco consumption, age, and race. Dr. Rahim's team then cross-referenced their answers with their lab results. About half of the men, 174 or 43%, had consumed marijuana in their lifetime. Many of them, 103, 25%, said they did not use the drug anymore. And the rest, 71 or 18%, defined as current users. Regardless, those who had ever used the drug had poorer semen quality than those who hadn't. The team saw damage on all fronts. Decreased volume? Really? Morphology, which is the shape, and total progressive motile count. Wow. How many sperm can actually move? That's just like the article I did yesterday, the ones that can't swim. All right. Men who smoked marijuana also had higher risk of abnormally shaped sperm, which can hamper its attempt to enter an egg. Doctors need to be aware of the negative effect and counsel their patients about the negative effects, Dr. Rahim told dailymail.com. Marijuana has been legalized in 9 states, particularly West Coast, but there are negative effects. We need to do more studies to understand these negative effects. That's interesting. Now it's the marijuana that is giving them poor sperm quality and abnormal sperm cells. I'm still banking on genetics, y'all, but please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out on abc.net.au. We already know about China's declining population. They pretty much messed themselves up with the one-child rule, and now they have a disproportionate large amount of men and hardly no women. China has done probably some of the highest rates of abortion on the planet, to the point where they have damn near made their women extinct. There's so few of them now. And since they've done this imbalance to themselves, they're now trying to make up for it by allowing couples to have 2 children. But here's the problem. It's not that many women for the men to be couples with. So China is pretty much screwed, because ultimately, if there's not enough women to go around, the men have one of 2 things to do. They're going to either go homosexual, or they are going to venture outside of China seeking employment and a wife and children. And they're already doing that in Africa. They're marrying the African women. And you're going to see them venturing out to other parts of the world doing the same thing, because they can't have those things as long as they're in China. That's really what it's boiled down to for the men. If they remain in China, there's a great chance they will never get married and never have children. So the way I see it, it's pretty much over for China. It really is. But let's get into this article. China's aging population, low birth rate to cause unstoppable population decline, experts say. China's population is set to peak at 1.44 billion people in 2029, but it then faces a long period of unstoppable decline, government scholars have warned, which is correct. You can't reverse what you messed up for a 40-year period. The world's most populous country must now draw up policies to try to cope with a declining labor force and a rapidly aging population, according to a summary of the latest edition of the Green Book of Population and Labor, published by the China Academy of Social Sciences. Growth in the working population has stagnated, the report warns, and the rising number of elderly people will have a far-reaching impact on social and economic development in the country, especially if fertility rates remain low, and they are low. They are low. I will never forget, I watched 60 Minutes, I believe it was last year, and they went to a school in China, and you saw nothing but a classroom full of boys. And I believe they said there were, out of the whole school, there were 5 girls, and everybody else in the school were just all boys. There was hardly no girls. But that is the end result. They've damn near made their girls extinct in this new generation that's now of working age. Okay, growth in working population has stagnated, and I'm just going to go down a little. China's population is expected to fall back to 1.36 billion by the middle of the century, which could mean a decline in the workforce of as many as 200 million people. If fertility rates remain unchanged, the population could fall to 1.17 billion by 2026. To me, they're being generous in these numbers. I think the decline is going to be way quicker than what they're projecting. China abolished its controversial one-child policy aimed to curbing population growth in 2016 instead of allowing couples to have 2 children. So now they are allowed to have 2 children as of now because of the change in policy. And I believe they changed that policy in 2016. But even changing that in 2016, how do you make up for the 40 years where you told people 1 child only? However, the country's birth rate still fell 3.5% in 2017 and is expected to have fallen again last year. So there's a lot of articles, y'all, coming out about China's population, and I think it is because they know how bad this is. You know, it's the same way with America when they come out with articles about the large elderly population and the populations following those elderly people are way smaller. So as these folks die out in China, they don't have the population to replace them, which means economically, just like here in America, things are going to dramatically change. What we are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is a natural extinction going on the planet. And what it boils down to, those of us that are one with our sun will survive. Those of you that are not in tune with the sun and you tend to burn and have all kinds of issues in the sun, you're out of here. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out in the Times, December 28th, 2018. This is a short article, but very significant, especially when it comes down to the low birth rate stories that I have been doing over the past few weeks. China just published some new numbers, which shows a bigger steep than they anticipated in their population. Birth rate slumps again as China faces new population crisis. Wow. So China ended its one-child policy in 2015 after it being in place for nearly 40 years. But it is very late in the game for them to do that. Now they have a two-child policy, and in some cases, I even read where they're even possibly allowing people to have three kids, but they waited way too late to do this. How do you do this when you have such an imbalance between men and women? And a lot of the women said they don't even want to have children. So how do you get out? You won't be able to get out of this at all. China is facing an alarming slump in its birth rate despite the government's effort to boost population growth since the end of its one-child policy. The number of births is expected to have fallen sharply from 17 million in 2017 to perhaps only 14 million this year. Wow. They went from 17 million to 14 million in 1 year. According to demographers, the figure would respond to a birth rate of 10 per 1,000 population. The global average is 18.5 per 1,000. So you can see China is well below that 18.5. 18.5 per 1,000 is the global average, and they are at 10 per 1,000. That is significant. The forecasts add to a growing sense of crisis as China grapples with the consequences of decades spent trying to curb its population. The one-child rule, introduced in 1979, ended 3 years ago, and a two-child policy was adopted in 2016. Officials called for as many as 20 million babies to be born this year, which they are not going to see that amount, not with the population imbalance they have now. Remember that people were aborting the girls and keeping the boys. So projected rise in China's over 60s. All right, so that means they have a big aging population and a younger population that can't replace them as they die out. So it's just showing you a projection in this chart right here. And believe me, that's all it is a projection, because it's just no way. How do you make up for 40 years of not really being able to grow families? And China is one place where abortions are still out of control. They said a lot of people are secretly still trying to find out if they're going to have a boy or girl. And of course, if it's a girl, they're aborting it. They said that stuff is still going on. They're just going, in the background and doing it, where they blatantly did it out in the open before, but it's still happening. So that being said, that means you're going to have another generation of mostly males and hardly no females if it's still going on. But hey, this is self-inflicted, China. You did this to yourself. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. I would like to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for this article that came out in NPR December 21st, 2018. Japan's population is in rapid decline. Now, I recently did an article on Japan where they're trying to give free homes to couples if they have children. So now this article, I mean, I don't even think this is 2 or 3 weeks apart. Japan's birth rate has dropped to a historic level, the lowest since data gathering began in 1899. That's what the Japan Times has reported, citing government figures released Friday. For years, Japan has seen a decline in its population, leading experts and lawmakers to consider the economic and social repercussions. On Friday, the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare estimated that 921,000 babies will be born by the end of 2018, 25,000 fewer than the previous year. Birth and death statistics show that the pace of Japan's population collapse is speeding up. The Japan Times reported about 127 million people live in Japan. The population could drop below the 100 million mark by 2049, according to the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research. Not only is Japan expected to enter a long period of population decline, but also its inhabitants are aging out of the workforce. By 2036, 1 in 3 people will be elderly, researchers project. To help ensure Japan stays on a path of sustained economic growth, we know we must address the birth rate and aging population issues, Communications and Cultural Affairs Minister. Okay. Samada said the government launched a new economic policy package in 2017 to address the dilemma. The plan is designed to promote both supply systems, innovation such as robots, and human resources development revolution. That is so cold. You know, they like artificial stuff, unbelievable. A social security system for not only the elderly and the youth, but also Japan's working age generation, so they can provide with support for child rearing and nursing care. Amid a shrinking workforce, Japan has already turned to robots for some of its daily needs. They are used in restaurants, stores, and banks. The International Monetary Fund stated last year that because of the aging population, robots will be found in schools, hospitals, and even temples. Lawmakers also passed a measure in December that will allow more foreign workers to enter the country for longer periods of time and, in some cases, with a path towards obtaining Japanese citizenship. Birth rates aren't just falling in Japan. South Korea has one of the lowest fertility rates in the world. Around the globe, the fertility rate fell more than 50% from 4.99 in 1960 to 4.4 by 2016, according to the World Bank. Japanese researchers found that among unmarried people between the ages of 18 and 34, nearly 70% of men and 60% of women were not in a relationship, reported the Japanese Times. So that's a lot of people. 70% of men and 60% of women are not even in any kind of relationship. Well, damn, I guess you're not having babies. That's the majority, isn't it? That's the majority of the youth population. But that isn't necessarily why the country is producing fewer babies. Oh, yes, it is. That's one of the reasons, along with many other factors. A major factor may be a dearth of stable jobs for young people. Since the 1990s, labor laws change, leading to more part time and contract work, according to The Atlantic, that could have affected people's trajectory, building a class of men who don't marry and have children because they and their potential partners know they can't afford to. Wow. So as you can see, what's that? 5 boys and 2 girls. Hmm. But as you can see, they said Japan's population decline is speeding up. So this seems to be a global issue, not with every group though. Not with every group. It seems to be the Asians and the Caucasians. Now, there are some other places because Puerto Rico had a low birth rate, and parts of South America as well, and Mexico. So it's not entirely just those two groups. It's other people sprinkled in there too. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. It's no secret that Japan has been struggling really hard with a population decline for quite some time. And their population was declining even before the Fukushima disaster happened over there. But it's really bad now. And I'm going to show you how bad. So Japan needs immigrants, but do immigrants need Japan? All right, so because things are really going south as far as Japan's population, it is just like populations that you see all over the globe. You have this very large, older population, and then you have a younger population that is way smaller. And this seems to be happening in the West and Eastern countries. And we know Japan is an island. As Japan's population gets older and smaller, the government is struggling to balance its own deeply conservative views on immigration with the need for new and younger workers. Public opinion is on the side of change. Despite perceptions of xenophobia, a 2018 Pew survey revealed that 59% of Japanese believe immigrants would actually make the country stronger. They're saying a lot of the same things that you hear out of the West, and I actually think that's where they're getting it from. And if these Asian nations would just look a little closer at the West, it's really not saving the West at all. It isn't. This week, Japanese lawmakers approved a policy change proposed by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. that will create a new visa categories to allow an estimated 340,000 foreign workers to take both high-skilled and low-wage jobs in Japan over the next 5 years. Boy, I tell you, with Fukushima and I seen how their babies come out all deformed and everything, if I was a immigrant, I sure wouldn't go to Japan. I don't think that's a good choice at all. While this represents a major shift in Japan's approach to immigration, many experts argue it doesn't go far enough. So here's a student from Vietnam that came to pursue higher education in Japan. Shrinking nation, Japan is already a super age nation, meaning that more than 20% of its population is over 65. Just 946,060 babies were born. In 2017, a record low since official records began in 1899. So, their decline actually started centuries ago. The decline means a shrinking cohort of workers is left supporting an increasingly elderly population in need of health care and pensions. So you see how they rose, and then it seems like they hit their peak in 2010. And then from that point on, it has been a steady decline in their population. Japan isn't the only country with such a problem. No, this decline is definitely global. Germany is also a super age nation. By 2030, the US, UK, Singapore, and France are expected to have earned that status, while the EU and US veer towards it doesn't matter, populism and adopt anti-immigrant stances, and Asian nations are competing for new arrivals, potentially reversing the power balance between immigrants and host countries. If Abe is to prevent Japan's population from dipping below 100 million by 2060, he will need to provide immigrants good reason to choose the country. All right. So there's something else that I want to show you, ladies and gentlemen. This article came out on December 6, 2018 from the Daily Sabah. Japan giving away free homes left empty by population decline. So they are giving these homes away to young families that want it at no cost. And you remember I did a story on Italy's population decline that's so bad. Any young married couples that have children, they are giving them free land at no cost in Italy. So they're trying all kinds of tactics to get their population back up, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The Japanese government is giving homes to young families at little or no cost as part of a new plan that encourages younger generation to live in the countryside while working to fill the growing number of empty properties. The government is aiming to fill some estimated, listen to this, 8.2 million abandoned houses, referred as ghost houses. IKEA in Japanese ghost houses, 8.2 million abandoned houses due to population decline. That is crazy, y'all. Applicants must be under the age of 43 and have at least one child under 18 of age to be eligible. The program also requires that the new residents of the houses remain permanently in the countryside. Wow. A declining population and young people migration to cities have left millions of homes empty in rural parts of Japan, according to Japanese Policy Forum. There are 61 million houses for 52 million households in 2013. That problem is only expected to worsen in the coming years. Japan's population is expected to decline from 127 million to about 88 million by 2065, according to the National Institute of Population and Social Security, bound to leave millions more homes vacant. While it may be fighting a losing battle, trust me, you are fighting a big time losing battle. The government's program, it's an effort merely to keep some villages in existence. Analysts estimate 30% of the houses in Japan will be abandoned by 2033, while nearly 900 towns and villages across Japan will no longer exist by 2040. That's a pretty rapid decline when you really think about it. Those years are really not that far off. I mean, we're approaching 2019. You're not talking about a long span of time. This is pretty rapid when you see how fast everybody, in the East and West are declining. But this is wild, y'all. So many empty homes left due to the population decline in Japan that they are giving them away for free. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I told many of you that I used to live in Europe. Do you know they have this same situation in Germany where I used to be? They got a lot of homes. They had a lot of homes sitting empty back when I was there. So you can imagine how bad it is. I was reading stories that there's even more there now. Homes just sitting there. They don't have enough people to fill the homes. This is not just Japan. This is also happening in Europe all over the place. So don't be surprised if you start hearing more of these stories about free homes given away because they just don't have the population anymore to fill the homes. Wow. These are some amazing times to be living in, y'all. It really is. I never thought I was going to be alive to see the things that I'm seeing happening in this world. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. I'd like to thank one of my subscribers, Ada Bennell, for this story. This came out from Brookings, and I'll leave the link to this article in the description box. The U.S. Census Bureau release of race and age statistics for 2017. So that's what we're going to discuss. Now, this article is really acknowledging what we already know is the decline of the white population in the U.S., and Generation Z Plus is minority white census show. Now, we know that the decline technically has been going on since the 60s. They really can't hide this anymore because it is becoming very noticeable that there's fewer of them. And it is already a known fact that the white elderly population is their last largest population. And we know they're old and they're in the process of dying out now. Those are your baby boomers. So let's get into this. So this is going to show you statistics that were released for 2017. Points to two noteworthy milestones about the nation's increasingly aging, white, and growing diverse population. First, for the first time since the Census Bureau has released these annual statistics, they show an absolute decline in the nation's white, non-Hispanic population, accelerating a phenomena that was not projected to occur until the next century. And this is why they're acting out so much, ladies and gentlemen. You see these public rants and these phone calls that on a bunch of non-crimes. They are acting out. It's going to get worse. You know, none of these things are going to help repopulate them. I guess I'm going to go out screaming and hollering. I don't know. I don't know the concept behind that. I think it's stupid. You should be doing something way more constructive with your time. You know, if you really were about something, you would try to help and try to turn this around instead of unleashing your garbage out on the public, which is, what is that going to do for you? It's not going to do anything. Second, the new numbers show that for the first time, there are more children who are minorities. Well, if those kids outnumber white kids, they should not be labeled as minorities. That's the first thing. Then who are white at every age from 0 to 9. This means we are on the cusp of seeing the first minority white generation born in 2007 and later, which perhaps we can dub Generation Z Plus. Together, these new data suggest that a signature feature of U.S. demographic change in the 21st century is the aging and declining of the white population, along with population growth among minorities to counterbalance the trend. White population decline. America's white population has been increasing since the first census was taken in 1790. You know, I found my family on that first census. And according to that census from 1790, my great grandfather could read and write. You remember they always said slaves could not read and write. He's on that census and he is listed as literate. He could read and write. He was listed as literate. So I have to laugh, and ladies and gentlemen, I found quite a few people that were on there listed as slaves, and they were listed as literate. It was not just people in my family. I found others too on that 1790 census. So I laugh when they try to come and say, they think we can't trace our lineage. We most certainly can. It may be a little difficult, but you can do it. I did it. I traced my family. I traced them. I can tell you exactly the names of the ones that were slaves and everything, and who the owners was, all of that information. So, those of you that are interested in doing this, it can be done. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. All right. So the table shows the change in non-Hispanic white population using data from the census of 1970 to 2010 and annual population estimates for 2011 to 2017 based on the recent release. These new numbers show for the first time an absolute decline in the nation's white population of more than 9,000 whites between 2015 and 2016, and more than 31,000 whites between 2016 and 2017. These new estimates revise earlier census estimates, which show white gains between 2015 and 2016. And ladies and gentlemen, after that, they have not had another increase. They haven't had another increase since then. Here's the chart. Let me see if I can blow this up so y'all can see it. All right. So you can see in the 1970s and 1980, so they gained over 11 million. A decade later, in the 1990s, they gained nearly 8 million. By 2000 census, they gained about 6 million. By 2010, their gain, that is a significant drop from a decade earlier. You had a 6 million increase in population, and you went down to roughly over 2 million. And that's in a decade. That is even when you look here between the 80s and the 90s, they went through a pretty steep decrease then too. But you can really see it from 2000 to 2010. By 2011, they only gained over 600,000 increase in population. And from that point on, it has been downhill. So 154, well, roughly 155 in 2012, 2013, 51,000 was their increase in population. Wow. About 110,000 in 2014, 2015, about 42,000 right here. And then after 2015, they have been decreasing. They're in the negative. They have not had an increase in their population for 3 years? Because we're in 2018 now. So the last time they had a little bump was 2015, and they have not had an increase since then. That's negative 9,475 in 2016 and negative 31,516. So they have not had a decrease in population. And this is going to get worse because you remember their elderly are dying out, and you got your drug addicts that are dying out simultaneously with the elderly population. So, yeah, it's extreme. Although these annual white declines are extremely modest, of minus 0.005 and minus 0.16% in 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017. White population declining after 2023. This is indicative of a general aging of the white population, which means proportionately fewer white women in their childbearing years and an excess of deaths over births, a natural decrease. The recent downsizing of the white population could reflect post-recession related fertility declines in the white population, leading to an inflation of white natural decrease to the highest levels of the last 6 years. The past year also showed a downturn in white immigration. Well, I don't know why a lot of Europeans would come here anymore. Number one, they got free health care. I mean, if you want those kind of people, how are you going to entice them to come when you got to pay an astronomical amount for health care? So the good news for the nation is that the white aging and potential future declines will be countered by gains in racial minorities. These populations increase by 4.7 million in the 2 years that the white population declined, including gains of 2.4 million among Hispanics and 1.1 million among Asians, and 1.2 million among all other races. You see how they left us out? I know why. Because our increases are good too. They don't want good too. They don't want that to be reflected. It's so obvious. Come on. According to the new estimates, moreover, these gains for the age under 10, while earlier estimates revealed minority white status for some of these youthful ages. This is how solidly the case for individuals born in each year since 2007. Okay. Wow. Okay, so this is showing under age 10 population is minority white. You can see it right here, where you see the bracket. Yeah, you can see their biggest population really is their 45. I think like around 45 to 7 is their 45. I think like around 45 to 75. Okay. Hence this generation, which might be called Generation Z plus, is the first truly minority white generation at 49.6% white, where 26% of its members are Hispanics, 13.6% African Americans, and nearly 10% include Asians and persons of two or more races. The latter states the population under age 10 is less than 35% white. At the other extreme, 17 states, largely in New England, the Midwest, and Mountain West, House Gen Z plus populations are more than two-thirds white. This population is minority white in 43 of the largest 100 metropolitan areas, including in Los Angeles, where less than 20% of 0 through 9-year-olds are white. Decline of white youth. The rise of the minority white Generation Z plus has a lot to do with a steady decline in whites among America's youth since 2000. This occurred as more white young entered adulthood than were born or immigrated to the US. However, this trend was countered to some degree by a growing youthful minority population. Nationally, whites under the age of 10 sustained a loss of 1.2 million and sustained a loss of 1.2 million between 2010 and 2017. According to the new estimates, the law attracted recent white migrants, including younger segments of the white population. The states of Texas, especially Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, Washington, Seattle, as well as North and South Dakota are in this category. So most counties experienced a decline in their white population under age 10. Change in white under age 10 population 2010 to 2017. And the blue, the lighter blue, is showing the losses. Look at this map. Let me see. I'm going to make it a little smaller so the whole thing fits on the screen. Yeah, here we go. The lighter blue on the map is showing you all of the losses. The dark blue is showing you the gains. And as you can see, the light blue definitely outnumbers. So the loss is 2,575 counties, the blue 500, the dark blue where there's gains, 566 counties. Wow. That's 66 counties. Wow. That's damn near the whole country. Wow. And look at Hawaii. It's all dark blue. All right. Yet these white declines are countered by gains in minorities. Between 2010 and 2017, the age under the age of 10 population showed gain 100 counties. Some of these gains are attributable to immigration, but in fact, only 38% of total minority growth is due to immigration, with the remainder attributable to natural increase. Nonetheless, it is clear that younger minority populations will be significant contributors to the nation's youth in light of the overall aging of the white population. These new census estimates underscore important demographic megatrends that will impact the country's future. An older baby boomer retire will be an increase in need for younger generations to contribute to a vibrant, productive labor force. Clearly, the emerging minority white Generation Z plus, small in size and born since the onset of the Great Recession, will play a key role. This underscores the urgency of investing in the well-being of America's racially diverse youth, and hardly have that many women now. You would have to impregnate these women, but you don't have that many anymore. Because even to this day, if it's a girl, they still abort a lot of babies in China. You know, they're probably the biggest abortions on the planet come out of China, probably more than anyone else. Because you got to think this is 20 years of mass abortion because they could only have one child and they only wanted a boy. It's so bad in China, y'all. They're kidnapping women so that the men can get married. And they don't even care if the woman is already married. They're kidnapping single and married women and taking them and marrying these women and trying to have babies with them, a woman that they got held hostage. That's how, that's the level of desperation they're at because it's not enough women to go around for each man anymore. But ladies and gentlemen, these are the people that walk around and say they're more intelligent than us over the next few years, despite the country's 2016 move to relax its controversial one-child policy. The China Daily News said on Thursday, citing population experts, though China's birth rate hit its highest level since 2000, the region had declined 12.9%. That's a huge drop. When you start getting into double digits, those are huge drops. 12.8%, that's huge. In the first half of 2018, that's how much they declined in just the first half of 2018. And surveys of hospitals in southwest China, Sichuan province, also show significantly fewer births this year. Growing concerns about the country's rapid aging population prompted a move by China in 2016 to allow couples to have a second child, relaxing restrictions on childbirth in place for nearly 4 decades. Okay, so those 4 decades they've been doing the one child thing. They're not going to catch up, ladies and gentlemen. In order for them to catch up, they would need more women in the country than men. If you got more men and you have just far few men, and you have just far few women, you're not going to be able to catch up like that. I mean, is going to make the elderly population the biggest. So really think about this, y'all. That means China is really in the same shape the US is in. It really is. You got the oldest population, which is the biggest in the country, right? And then once those elderly, which they're dying out now, when they start dying out, the next generation behind them are much smaller. So China is dealing with the same exact thing. They got this astronomical size elder population, and all of the generations, not only are they smaller, but they got less women in the population. They can't catch up, y'all. They can't do this. They can't do it. Whoever put those policies in place, y'all should go find that person and put them and beat the hell out of them. Okay. 240 million this year, putting the country's health services and pensions funds under immense strain, according to data published last year by the China Association. Yeah, because now you got a young generation that can't support the older generation. It's not enough of them. That is a problem now. The Northeast Rust Belt province of Liaoning said earlier this year that it would consider offering initiatives to couples to have more children, ability for anything they screw up. This is the no responsibility world. Anything that happens, it's mental illness. I don't know what China can blame this on mental illness. Oh, well, the people that were running China 40 years ago were mentally ill. Nothing is ever their fault. They don't do anything wrong. They deflect what happened over the 72 hours. That's Louis Farrakhan's fault. It's the Nation of Islam. It's Louis Farrakhan. We are in the no responsibility world. And that's what we should be calling it from now on, the no responsibility world. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And please support this channel by making a donation to PayPal, and also consider becoming a patron. Peace, family. And having fewer of them. That's the basic takeaway of a report published by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention earlier this month, an update of one released in May 2018. You might not find that surprising. After all, the new data simply reinforces a trend that has been documented for now, for a while, and it has been going on. In fact, I remember doing these same articles last year in my videos. That is that U.S. fertility is on the decline. Increasingly, this is being seen across the board, from city centers to small rural communities, and across all three of the race groups studied. CDC's definition, total fertility rate, is an estimation of numbers of births that a hypothetical group of 1,000 women would have over their lifetimes, calculated by using the age-specific birth rates in any given year. That number has dropped dramatically over the last decade by 12% for women in rural areas, 16% in small to medium metro areas, and 18% in large metro areas. Overall fertility rates continue to be higher in rural areas. And 14% for large metro areas. So while a woman living in a large city like Chicago or New York might now be expected to have on average 1.712 children in her lifetime, another living in rural Idaho might have 1.95, compared to 2007, when women in all three settings were expected to have around 2.1 children over the course of a lifetime. This trend for fewer children was paired with a tendency to delay motherhood. The average maternal age at first birth increased by 1.3 years in rural areas, 23.2 to 24.5 years, 1.5 years in small or medium areas, 24.3 to 25.8, and 1.8 years in large metro counties, 25.9 to 27.7. Researchers also broke down fertility rates and average maternal age by non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic Black, and Hispanic women. Maternity leave policies, which have always been bad in America, always been terrible. As for the rise in average maternal age, it could be that women are simply choosing to have children later so they can spend more time focusing on their career and traveling the world. It's likely to be the result of all three of these factors and more. What is clear, however, is that this is not a theme unique to the United States. Death rates are surpassing birth rates in Europe. While countries like Japan are seeing their rates plummet in 2017, fewer than 1 million births meant the entire population fell by more than 300,000. The good news for the US, at least, is that there is a way to fill the population deficit without enforcing. Oh, they're talking about immigration. That's not going to help America. It's not. It's not going to help America. Now, they have a map right here. It's not. It's not going to help America. Now, they have a map right here. Population map shows Europe's death rates are exceeding births. So natural increase is in the blue. Natural decreases is in the red. And no data is like, I guess, that beige kind of color. So as you can see, it's definitely more red on the map. And those are all of the places that have the biggest natural decrease in Europe. Wow. Some of these countries are completely red. Damn. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. Once again, another low birth rate article. And they're coming out more and more all the time. Again, that's a clear indicator that things are far worse than what they're saying. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. A lot of times I focus on articles that talk about the low fertility rate in the US. This is an article that came out in the week. It's a website that's out of the UK, September 4th, 2018. Why global fertility out of the UK, September 4th, 2018. Why global fertility is in decline. So actually, these declines are the heaviest in European, Western nations, and the Asian nations. They seem to be the ones hit the hardest on a global scale. So the fertility rate in South Korea, already the lowest in the world, is set to drop below 1 baby per woman for the first time in its history, according to a new study. Report author Lee Chol-hee, an economics professor at Seoul National University, predicts the resulting future shortfall in healthcare, pension, economic growth, and of course their military is going to cause real problems in South Korea. As The Economist puts it, the country is running out of children. But South Korea is not the only place where fertility is in decline. Fertility rates are falling across the globe. According to the latest World Population Data Sheet released by the US-based Population Reference Bureau, the 2018 worldwide total fertility rate is 2.4 births per woman, down from around 5 in rates are South Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan, which are all hovering just above one birth per woman, while Niger, Chad, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have the highest rates at around 6 to 7 births per woman. Look, y'all can't compare yourselves to the melanated people on the earth. I don't mean no harm, but you can't make that comparison. Melanated people on the earth. I don't mean no harm, but you can't make that comparison at all. Okay, we have always been the most fertile people on this planet. That is not shocking. Latest figures from the Office for National Statistics put the UK rate at 1.76. So, why are women having fewer babies? In South Korea, a deeply patriarchal society, the status of women is a major driver of the trend. With worsening job prospects and rising property prices, women are getting married and having children later in life, if at all, for fear of being denied promotions and facing discrimination at work, says the paper. The South Korean government efforts to boost the rate. The South Korean government efforts to boost the rate with measures such as free childcare and cash payouts for pregnant women have had little success. Well, honey, if you are barren, there is no amount of money that's going to up your birth rate. They've been trying that in Europe too, y'all, trying to pay the women to get pregnant, and it's just not happening. I mean, if you just are infertile, you just are. Money is not going to magically change what's going on in the world. Have kids to work on farms and an increase in the cost of raising children. However, while countries with very low or very high birth rate pose problems regionally, Smith says that globally we are approaching a magic level of around 2.1, when the total population will stabilize and decline, putting an end to fears that overpopulation is going to swarm the planet. It has never been no over. Come on. The Most High made this planet, but he's not going to make the planet big enough for everybody to be on. That doesn't even make any common sense. And it never made any sense. But you know what I find ironic, y'all? The people that bitched and moaned about too many people being on the earth, they are the groups that are declining the most. Boy, you ask for something, you get it. Yeah, the world is being depopulated. You ask for something, you get it. Yeah, the world is being depopulated. The ones that were screaming about it, you're the ones being depopulated. I guess you really did get what you wished for. Unlike other animals, humanity has voluntarily limited its reproduction, Smith concludes. The population bomb has probably, Smith concludes, the population bomb has probably been diffused. So there you go. But y'all, this is an article that came out January 9th, 2018. Virginia's female prison population climbing faster than males population. This came out in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Virginia's prison population grew by just 11 men from